This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, weathering the winter. Nova Scotia extends Shubie Campground access for RV dwellers.
Cultural Bridge, an Inukshuk at Acadia University campus focuses on reconciliation.
And Game Changer, a Cape Breton arena is on track to welcome women's hockey next year.
Sunshine, mild temperatures, not a bad early October day. Will it last for the weekend? That's the question. I'll have the answer just ahead.
Good evening. The provincial government has responded to pressure from people who are hoping to live in their RVs at Shubie Campground this winter.
As the end of camping season draws closer, people who live in their RVs near Halifax have been worried about what comes next. And as Nicholas Sagan reports, the time left to prepare for winter is running out.
Once again, Carrie Steeves is under a time crunch. She's been searching for answers about if she can park her RV here for the winter, worried the snow will fly before she and others are ready.
People are panicking. People are desperate because it's to get winter ready, to get your camper ready for the winter is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time.
Last year, Steeves spent the winter in her RV at Shubie Campground in Dartmouth. She thought up the idea and led the charge for the pilot program that let 12 people rent spots here. At the end of the winter, she said she thrived, and the program was called a huge success. So Steeves wonders why work to renew it moved so slowly this year.
Last year we had to fight for it. I had to kind of prove that it was going to work and explain how it could work and explain that it was doable. This year I didn't have to prove that it could work. We proved that last year. It's just things just need to move quicker.
After CBC's story was published Thursday morning, the province shared an update they wouldn't share before.
The agreement is signed, sealed, and delivered, and the individuals that are staying there, it takes a little bit of nervousness and unknown from them, but we're also opening up 5 more RV spaces.
That means 17 spaces will be available this year. People renting will pay $250 monthly, and the province will pitch in $145,000. The municipality will provide housing support workers, drinking water, snow clearing, sewage services, and garbage collection. The province did not say how people will be chosen to rent a spot here, but they said those who are selected will get a call in the coming days. Steve says with all the insulation and skirting needed to keep warm and dry through the winter, she hopes to get to work soon. Nicholas Sagan, CBC News, Halifax.
Federal fisheries officers have seized more than 13,000 pounds of lobster, as well as documents and electronic records during the search of a facility in Shelburne County. One person has been arrested and is being investigated for potential charges under the Fisheries Act for maintaining a lobster pound without a license. Social media posts from DFO confirm officers obtained a search warrant for that operation that took place yesterday. The value of the seized lobster is in excess of $100,000, according to DFO. However, the plant is not being identified, and neither is the person under investigation. Illegal fishing has been an ongoing concern in southwest Nova Scotia, with calls for more enforcement.
There's still no end in sight to a dispute between Nova Scotia and the federal government that is preventing the completion of work on a stretch of Highway 101. The upgrade is almost done, but a stretch over the Avon River near Windsor remains blocked. That's because the province hasn't been able to convince the Department of Fisheries and Oceans that it can finish the job in a way that will not restrict fish passage. The Public Works Minister couldn't say how or when the work would get done.
It was an option that was available to us, and we put it forward. But we'll work with them. We are committed to finishing this project. I know you've heard me say that over and over again, and quite frankly, I'm getting tired of saying it to you as well. But we will complete this project. We've put in enhanced safety measures, and we know that this project needs to be done.
The enhanced safety measures that Masland is talking about are needed because the highway now includes a couple of sudden turns to detour around where the new stretch of road is supposed to go.
Legislation to regulate offshore wind development in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador has cleared the Senate. Bill C-49 passed third reading in the Senate on Tuesday. The two provinces are required to pass mirror legislation as part of the Atlantic Accord. Nova Scotia did that last month, and Federal Energy and Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson said he expects Newfoundland and Labrador will do the same soon. Once regional environmental assessments are complete, the minister said bids can open.
Jay Scotland is in for Ryan Snoddon tonight.
Yeah, and you can't complain about today.
Certainly not.
Beautiful.
Jay, great day.
Yeah, Ryan picked a good one. Lots of sunshine today. For early October to be up into the high teens, that's not bad at all. We'll actually see temperatures near or even over 20 in a few spots for tomorrow as well. One blemish, really not much to forecast here, would just be that chance again for some fog to develop late this evening, overnight. That could linger into the early morning hours tomorrow. And then as we move into the afternoon, we will watch that southwesterly wind to help bring those temperatures up to around 20 degrees. Maybe a little bit cooler if you're near the water, but inland areas up around 20. Certainly possible tomorrow, but the clouds will be gradually increasing through the afternoon. We'll see a mainly cloudy evening for your Friday night, and that is all ahead of some cloudier conditions and maybe some wet weather in the forecast for your Saturday, Sunday as well. Not a washout per se, but some showers will be possible. Tom and Amy, when I come back, we'll have more details on that in our full forecast.
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Jay.
The CEO of Northumberland Ferry says the company is still safe and reliable, but he knows there is a long way to go to rebuild trust with travelers. There is no ferry service right now, as both the MV Confederation and MV Surima are out for repairs. Mark Wilson says in part, the delay in getting the Surima back in action is out of the control of Northumberland Ferries, as the ship is on loan from Quebec.
I know that there's been some frustration in the media about the timeline. We said that we would be back in service this week on the Surima, and that slid, in our media release yesterday to October 19th. And I'll take responsibility for that, but, under the understanding of it's, NFL doesn't control the maintenance on part of that charter of that vessel.
Wilson says Northumberland Ferries wants to restore people's faith in the ferry service and hopes that will begin next year with the arrival of the MV Fanafjord.
Nova Scotia families with loved ones in Lebanon are fearing for their safety. Israel's military has urged residents in more than 20 towns in southern Lebanon to evacuate their homes immediately as Israel continues with its deadly airstrikes against Hezbollah. Nancy Hoyek says the stress of not knowing what comes next is weighing on them.
If you're not under direct attack, a question is, will I still have the same resources I had before? Will I have access to healthcare if I needed it? If I needed to leave, can I move? You can't move freely in the country anymore. So, yeah, it's definitely hard times for them.
Israel, which has been at war with Hamas in Gaza for almost a year, sent its troops into southern Lebanon after 2 weeks of intense airstrikes, escalating tensions in a conflict that risks drawing in the United States and Iran.
A powerful symbol of Inuit survival and resilience is taking shape in Wolfville. A renowned cultural teacher is at Acadia University, building an Inukshuk on campus to build understanding and reconciliation. Gareth Hampshire reports.
Peter Ichnik has been building Inukshuks for more than 50 years. A residential school survivor, he went on to become a leading political figure and is known for his passion for Inuit history, culture, and identity.
Inukshuk is a symbol of survival for Inuit since time immemorial.
Students at Acadia are helping him with this project, but he's proud that at the age of 77, he's still in good shape and excited about sharing the traditions he learned growing up in the Arctic, where he was born in an igloo and lived in one until he was 11, when he was forced into residential school. He describes that as a kidnapping and was abused during his time there, but has dedicated his life to promoting healing.
We are establishing what I call Inukshuk, living in peace and harmony. That means healing and reconciliation for all Canadians.
He's been invited back to Acadia by Professor Cynthia Alexander, who's known him for about 25 years, and asked him to be part of a 5-day reconciliation gathering. He also spoke and sang to her class.
We at Acadia University, our whole campus community and our local community, have had the privilege of listening to, learning from, and engaging with him. This reminds us of our connection with another coastal peoples, the Inuit, and how much we ourselves can learn from Inuit.
Another expert in the class is Lara Hartman, who gave a keynote speech to the gathering about decolonizing education. From a First Nation in British Columbia, she graduated from Acadia and likes the idea of the Inukshuk being placed outside the library.
I think that it shows a lot of connection, not just with, Mi'kmaq culture and First Nations cultures, but also that the university has done this and taken a step towards including other Indigenous cultures here.
Inukshuk means likeness of a person, he says. While each one is unique, they all reflect traditional knowledge with multiple purposes, including acting as navigation tools, showing fishing spots and hunting grounds, and here at the university as an educational tool.
We've always been here, we are always here, and we're always going to be here. So people of Nova Scotia, people of Canada, will have a better idea of who we are as Inuit.
Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Wolfville.
One of Halifax's youth poet laureates is spreading her love of poetry to the next generation.
20-year-old Asia Sparks is this month's featured writer at Mulgrave Park's Read to Achieve program.
In the heart of the sun, stories unfold, stories of kindness in hues of Afrocentric gold.
That is Sparks reading from her poem, Roots of Kindness. She met with about a dozen kids yesterday at their after-school reading program based in their home community. Sparks said that when she was their age, she struggled with reading.
Until I was in grade 3, I was under reading levels. And then so on and so forth, I started to find books that represented to me. And then my reading levels actually increase. So when you find literature that represents yourself or that you can connect to, and that's part of the reason why I'm here as well. But reading is a vehicle that can get you places.
Now that she's wrapped up her stint as Halifax's Youth Poet Laureate, she's studying social services at NSCC.
An arena in Cape Breton that will be home to women's hockey is closer to reality.
Renovations to the Canada Games complex are on time and on budget, and the hope is the doors will open next year. Kyle Moore has that story.
It was more than 2 years ago that Sydney was crowned the winner of Craft Hockeyville. The win meant $250,000 in arena upgrades. Today, that money is part of a $36 million renovation at the Canada Games complex.
I always kind of hoped and dreamed for it. I really didn't expect that it would happen so successfully, so quickly, with so much support. We're really overwhelmed by how much support that came from all corners to help us get here.
The Cape Breton Blizzard Female Hockey Association partnered with the Cape Breton University Capers women's hockey team on the Hockeyville bid. The Blizzard has more than 300 players and has struggled to find ice time, forcing teams to travel to nearby communities to practice and compete. Once renovations are done, the rink will become home ice for the organizations.
Our goal in the beginning was just to get enough ice time to satisfy the growth of girls hockey in the area, and we struggle with that today, but in a couple of months we will not be struggling with that anymore.
The renovation and expansion includes 2 new accessible dressing rooms, a fitness center, and several multi-purpose rooms. The arena will include an NHL-sized ice surface, an electric Zamboni, and accessible ice access for sledge hockey.
You'll walk in here and it'll feel like a brand new arena, not only a renovation. So on the renovation side, we have a new ice plant installed, an energy efficient ice plant. That was one of the main reasons why we had to close in the first place.
Steve Horn says the renovation will revitalize the venue's legacy and become the first home to women's hockey in Canada.
You see the excitement in the Professional Women's Hockey League and the atmosphere that's brought to those games. We're looking forward to that kind of atmosphere here at Cape Breton University and the Canada Games complex.
This makes all the difference for us. We're bigger than most minor hockey associations in the area. We're actually a 2-surface organization, so when we're in here, we're still using other ice in the area. So we're looking to continue that growth, and now the sky's the limit.
The first puck is scheduled to be dropped in early 2025. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
Yeah, lots of hard work going into that arena. To
Yeah,
get it
it's
ready.
looking good. Nice facelift for sure. Talk about a good look. Hey, this is a pretty nice view, isn't it, tonight?
Wouldn't you like to be out on the water tonight?
It's like a second summer almost, isn't it?
We'll take it.
Can't beat it.
All right, Jay's up next with the full weather forecast. We will see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back. The aerospace company Airbus has been awarded a contract for new water bombers in Nova Scotia.
The existing fleet of 4 helped fight the wildfires last year.
They're being replaced with the same Airbus model that has enhanced safety features. The contract is valued at about $25 million, but the province plans to sell its current helicopters to reduce the cost.
It was coming to that maintenance schedule where it was going to cost a lot of money. So with the trade-in value that we have of the 4 helicopters currently stationed at Shubie, the trade-in value would certainly helped us out with the purchase of the next 4, and we're very happy with the helicopters that we have.
The helicopters are also used for search and rescue and aerial surveillance. The first new helicopter should arrive next summer.
All right, we always look forward to the weekend, but I don't know if it can match what today was like.
Today was my favorite of the week so far, I gotta say. Jay?
Yeah, Tomorrow, I mean, it will not be maybe quite as sunny as we get into the mid to late afternoon. Those clouds will be increasing, but should start out fairly sunny. And temperature-wise, we may outperform today, just a smidge. A few spots could actually top 20 degrees. Not too bad for the 4th day of October. There's a look at our daytime highs today across the province, and we were close to that mark in many areas. We did see a few spots up over 20. I think we'll see a few more, a bit more widespread in terms of that 20-plus degree afternoon temperature for your Friday. Unfortunately, we're not carrying that the nice conditions into the weekend. It's not going to be a washout by any stretch, but some clouds, some showers, and then next week we'll be talking about, I don't want to say cooler weather, more October-like weather in the long-range forecast. We'll get to that in just a moment. Not much to show you on the satellite and the radar picture because there was an absence of cloud cover through the second half of the day today. Maybe some low cloud to start the day, and we could be looking at some low cloud and some fog as we move through the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning. So there's that chance for some low cloud. This is actually showing some fairly widespread fog on this forecast model. Others not looking to be quite as foggy. We'll say patchy fog, certainly possible in the morning, then a mix of sun and cloud, but through the afternoon, those clouds do increase. And by the time we get to supper time, I am expecting it to be overcast, mainly cloudy to overcast conditions through the evening hours. And then as we move into Saturday, we have this developing area of low pressure trough. It does eventually become a low pressure system as we move Saturday into Sunday. And that we'll see likely working from the morning and afternoon for more western areas, afternoon, evening for more eastern areas. We'll start to see those showers building in through the day on Saturday, and the wind will be a little bit brisk as well. It's not a bad thing. Rain in October is a good thing as well, but we don't want dry conditions. But it's not going to be necessarily ideal for being outside unless you've got your umbrella handy for your Saturday. And we'll check in on Sunday in just a moment. Overnight outlook for tonight, temperatures will be near double digits, anywhere from about 8 or 9 on the low end to 10, 11 degrees on the warmer end tonight. But a few spots inland, low-lying, could dip down into the mid-single digits. So that does see a slight chance for some patchy ground frost. Same process to see frost forming as fog. It just depends on the temperature. We're likely to see some at least fog patches developing overnight into early tomorrow morning. It means we'll start out, aside from maybe some poor visibility in spots, with a fairly sunny start to your Friday. And then we'll see a mix of sun and cloud, with those clouds gradually increasing through the afternoon, becoming overcast or mainly cloudy as we get into the evening hours. But look at those temperatures. Early October, 19, 20, even 21 degrees possible for daytime highs tomorrow. Not too bad, especially when that falls on a Friday. So taking a look at the next few days, and again, this is not steady or necessarily heavy rain all day Saturday, all day Sunday, but we will see those temperatures staying fairly warm, but the wind will pick up, and we will watch for clouds and off and on showers possible for your Saturday and your Sunday. And then as we take a look into next week, that long-range outlook, starting out with a chance of showers on Monday, temperatures still around or slightly warmer than what we should be seeing for early October. But we will start to see those temperatures ticking down into the low teens for daytime highs, and we'll see those overnight temperatures getting down into the mid-single digits, even cooler in a few spots as well. So make the most of your Friday, and even though there's some showers in the forecast, looking at that long-range outlook, still a lot warmer than it should be for our first weekend of October.
We could use the moisture, that's for sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Anytime.
Coming up, deepening conflict in Lebanon, cross-border fighting between Israeli and Hezbollah soldiers intensifies.
And we speak with a member of the local Lebanese community about the conflict and its impact. That's our newsmaker after the break. Israel's military has urged residents in more than 20 towns in southern Lebanon to evacuate their homes immediately as Israel continues with its deadly airstrikes against Hezbollah. Nancy Hoyak lives in Halifax, one of the 7,200 people of Lebanese descent living in Nova Scotia. Welcome. So nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Your family lives largely in the central Lebanon area. How are they doing?
They're doing well. Their spirits are well, but it's definitely like a very hard time for both them and me. I'm worried about them every day. They're trying to stay strong for me, I'm sure, but I know that every day can look different for them, and that's the hard part.
I gather they are not under direct attack at this point, but I would think that a lot of people don't feel too safe.
Exactly, right? Because if you're not under direct attack, a question is, will I still have the same resources I had before? Will I have access to healthcare if I needed it? If I needed to leave, can I move? You can't move freely in the country anymore. So, yeah, it's definitely hard times for them. Yeah.
You know, watching some of the imagery, and we have some of it on here now. It's difficult to watch, and you have to. For some people, I'm sure it's triggering. When you see it and when you hear about the number of people who are being displaced, the evacuations that are happening, what do you know about what's happening on the ground there, some of the efforts that are underway within the country?
It's definitely hard to see the footage. It's not something normal. I lived there for 20 years. This is not something anyone is used to. A lot of people are traumatized from it by just seeing it, let alone I can only imagine what people are going through being around that, from even whether or not it's close to them, even just the sounds or the imagery is just, it's a lot. However, fortunately, and it's been so heartwarming for me to see, is that even with so much terror, people have come together. Everyone I know is making any amount of effort they can to help people. Restaurants are giving out free meals. If people sell furniture, they're giving out free mattresses. People are giving out clothes. Like anyone, the whole community is coming together to help each other out. Whoever has a space, you'd see them sharing their numbers on Instagram. Call me, I could have a room for you. So everyone's trying the best they can, and everyone has really come together to help the community. That's the most heartwarming thing to see, yeah.
What are you seeing happening in the Lebanese community here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, broadly speaking?
Unfortunately, I've been quite frustrated, let alone disappointed, to see that hasn't been reflected in the community here. I haven't heard much from anybody talking about this, let alone even starting any sort of fundraiser, which I think in a time like this, after seeing 1 million people displaced, 2,000 people being killed, 90 essential workers being killed as well, like the least we can do is to help in any way we can, and not just sit there and witness the atrocities that are happening in our city and to our people. And so all I've seen so far is small initiatives. Me and my friends were planning a bake sale in the next couple of days. I know a friend of mine who's doing a Pilates class as a fundraiser, but we're really trying to do the best we can, and I really hope that others try to do the same.
You mentioned the fundraising there. You were telling me earlier that there's a huge volunteer effort in Lebanon. Firefighters, for example, a lot of cases, the Red Cross and so on. So I'm thinking by your actions and by your suggestions that money is something that might help.
Of course, yeah, certainly. And unfortunately, most of the people who work as essential workers in Lebanon, whether they're firefighters or in the Red Cross, predominantly they are volunteers. And so most of their equipment and like the everything they need to function is also done on either a donation basis or through funds. And I'm pretty sure they need all the support they can get. So if people are interested to help, they should definitely donate to the Lebanese Red Cross, for sure.
Is the world paying attention to this conflict to the degree that you think it should be?
They could be paying attention to the conflict, but I have what causes me a lot of sadness is also the narrative to which it is being discussed, and how the civilian lives that are being lost are being disregarded left and right. Seeing 6 buildings being leveled is not something that should be normalized. A million civilians being displaced, a million people being displaced is not something that should be normalized. Hearing about these insane bombs falling on a city that has 2 million people is not something that should be normalized. And I don't think there is enough emphasis on how this is affecting civilian lives, let alone like everyone in the country. So I just hope that the narrative would highlight that more than anything else. Yeah.
And we'll leave things on that important note. Nancy Hoyak, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In 2018, Paisley Rose Adams was born 4 months premature, weighing just 1 pound. She and her family spent the first 6 months of her life at the IWK in Halifax.
She defied the odds by surviving, but doctors were concerned she could face challenges and complications as she grew up. The CBC's Steve Bruce met with the PEI family to find out how she's doing now.
For Paisley Rose Adams' parents, moments like this are everything. Their daughter being a typical, happy and healthy 6-year-old, which is exactly what she is.
It fills your heart with pride, honestly. Just super proud of, everything she overcame and the journey that she was faced with upon arriving into this crazy world. So.
Anytime you think back on where she came from, it's hard to believe that she is here, It was quite a ride, so to be where we are now, I feel very, very lucky.
We'll make a copy of that.
Back in April 2018, Paisley came into the world just 23 weeks into her mom's pregnancy. She was 4 months premature and weighed just 1 pound, 1 ounce.
They had told me that 24 weeks was like the earliest that she even stood a chance. And I mean, in the early days, nobody really knew, like her lungs were severely, severely underdeveloped, and that was kind of the biggest concern at the time.
Paisley spent 6 months at the IWK in Halifax before doctors decided she was strong enough to go home. Though as a micro-preemie, she still faced risks as she grew and developed that led to a lot of medical appointments in the early days.
There was pediatrician, there was physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, eye doctors. She could have had any one of a number of impairments or disabilities that she was at very high risk for, and somehow she made it through with none. So it's definitely count our blessings for that every day.
Paisley is small for her age and has a quiet voice, the result of having one paralyzed vocal cord. But her parents say that's hardly held her back.
She had to learn how to get her voice heard or how to make herself known in a group of people when she was so small and so quiet and easily overpowered. And she's figured out those things along the way.
Her size, I don't think that affects her at all. I mean, she's a little firecracker, like I said. There's no slowing her down.
They took my tube out for the first time yesterday.
After Paisley's birth, her parents shared their story in an online blog. All these years later, they still get lots of questions from Islanders about how Paisley's doing. Her mom's also had other parents of premature babies reach out. She's quick to offer support and her perspective.
The good and the bad all along the way. I think everything happened exactly as it was supposed to, and I think going through all of that with her made me a better mom and a better person, and I think kind of everyone in her life has learned and grown in a way from going through what we went through with her. So
she's beautiful. She's a living miracle. She's our angel. So it's been pretty rewarding to see her come through that and come out the other side to who she is now. So
Steve Bruce, CBC News, Clinton.
Coming up, Kraton crashes into Taiwan. The deadly typhoon makes landfall.
Welcome back. Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen are claiming responsibility for drone attacks on central Israel today. This comes as Israel intensifies its military operations against Hezbollah militants in Lebanon.
Overnight, Israel launched airstrikes in the country for the first time in nearly 20 years. Many see the buildup as a preview of Israel's plans for action against its key enemy, the Iranian regime. Sasha Petrovic has the latest.
After this week's big barrage of missiles fired at Israel, by respond and when? On that, the timing, U.S. President Joe Biden was asked the question today, and he answered, nothing will happen today. But since it's a holiday here in Israel, it's Jewish New Year, the government is closed, an answer isn't really expected here until probably tomorrow night. However, there is a general consensus that Israel is going to respond in a hard way, much harder perhaps than it did back in the spring when Iran fired missiles, cruise missiles and drones at Israel in another attack, and Israel responded in a fairly light way under pressure from Washington not to escalate the situation. This time, that pressure still exists from Washington and from other countries. But here, the consensus is that that was too soft last time, and Israel needs to hit back hard. Among politicians, defense leaders, generals, and even the general public, people feel that Israel has to strike back in a way that will teach Iran a lesson. Or, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu puts it, this is a tough war and has to be tough against Iran's axis of evil. Now, that includes various militias in the region, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas down in Gaza, and others as well. But the main target, as far as Israel is concerned, is Iran, who is the funder and the backer of most of these other groups. This sort of conflict has been going on, at least verbally, for some time until it broke out in the open in the spring. Now, Israel says that it is time for it to strike back hard. Sasha Petrovic, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The new head of NATO visited Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as air raid sirens sounded in the capital. Mark Rutte became head of the alliance 2 days ago, vowing to shore up support for the country in its war with Russia. The Ukrainian government, meanwhile, is calling for more military assistance from Western nations following another Russian airstrike. Ukrainian officials say 12 people were wounded, including a young child, when a Russian glide bomb hit an apartment building in Kharkiv overnight. Ukraine's second largest city is close to the Eastern Front and is again coming under a heavy bombardment. Ukraine has no air defense against glide bombs.
The typhoon that had already brought severe weather to Taiwan yesterday, today made landfall. Winds hit 160 kilometers an hour. Rain was torrential. Trees and streetlights toppled. Heavy debris was sent flying, and in several areas, landslides struck. Flights were grounded and financial markets closed for a second day. 2 deaths were reported yesterday, with dozens more injured. Several people have been reported missing.
The Quebec government is under fire for funding a pair of NHL hockey games in Quebec City. It's spending millions, money critics say would be better spent elsewhere. Allison Northcott has the story.
The LA Kings started their Quebec City visit with a practice where fans could see the team take to the ice. Some there said it was great to have a chance to see these NHL players up close in their own city. The Kings are playing 2 preseason games at Quebec City's Videotron Center. It's part of the team's training camp, and the Quebec government has paid $5 to $7 million to have that happen here in Quebec. Even though hundreds of tickets have been sold for the games, the government has been facing criticism about this for months from opposition politicians, community groups, unions, and others who say this is not something to spend taxpayer money on. Quebec's Liberal leader said he had an LA Kings jersey made just for Premier François Legault. It highlights the province's deficit.
The captain deficit, the king of the deficit is François Legault. And here, in the context that the Kings are here in Quebec, we will be sending to François Legault his jersey.
Quebec's premier defended his decision, saying it's a way to showcase Quebec City's arena in the hopes of one day bringing an NHL team back to the city. It hasn't had a team since the Nordiques left in 1995. In a press conference, LA Kings president Luc Robitaille didn't go into too much detail about the controversy over the taxpayer dollars, saying it's part of the business model for teams to play in different cities. He also said the Kings aren't here to cause tension, they're here to play hockey. The Kings captain said he's happy to have a chance to play in Quebec.
It's obviously great to be here. I know that the city's been waiting a long time to get some NHL action, and with the passionate fans and everything that they have here.
Some community groups and unions held a protest. They say they aren't against the LA Kings themselves, but the money the province is handing over to them. They say given social problems like the housing crisis and homelessness, it's not appropriate for Quebec to be investing in an NHL team's visit. The Kings will play 2 games in Quebec City, one against the Boston Bruins tonight and on Saturday against the Florida Panthers. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Well, the hockey season just getting underway, but there have been already a couple of unsettling incidents at youth games. They didn't involve the players, but rather the parents. Jamie Strachan has the story.
On the ice, a hockey game between 7 and 8-year-olds. Off the ice, a brawl involving parents and at least one coach. The game is stopped, players sent to their benches. It happened at this Ontario arena, a season-opening tournament for the Clever League, which has attracted some of the best young players in the province.
I think the first thing is to make sure the kids aren't impacted. They'll do what they have to do with anyone who is aggressor, like whoever started the fights. I think, they have no place to being there.
The league refused requests for an on-camera interview, but in a statement to CBC News, it says the KSL intends to take appropriate action and has taken interim steps, including suspensions, adding violent or aggressive behavior won't be tolerated.
I think anytime behavior like that happens in front of young people is just simply not acceptable, whether it's our league or anywhere else.
Scott Oakman runs the GTHL, the largest youth hockey league in the world. With thousands of games played every year, 6 parents were banned last season for bad behavior. The latest also from this weekend, parents brawling at this youth AAA game in Toronto. He says he usually deals with at least one case of misbehaving parents every week.
We're going to get to the bottom of who is involved and hold them accountable. Unfortunately, these types of instances cast an image of all hockey, which really isn't the case, and all parents are kind of tainted with that image.
These are isolated incidents, outliers among mostly positive experiences, but experts say a product of an increasingly competitive culture surrounding elite youth sports.
We pay an awful lot of money to have our kids involved in sport. Sometimes parents feel completely entitled. So we've got a lot of parents these days that are overstepping.
Some are using what happened as a lesson.
I actually mentioned it to him as like a learning point. So there's nothing wrong with looking at what the mistakes adults are making and learning from it.
A chance to take something good away from this ugly incident. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
The 3-day strike by port workers in Montreal is over, but the dispute behind it is no closer to resolution. And shipping is also being affected by other issues. Scott Peterson reports.
This 3-day strike was supposed to be a warning shot over the bow of the Maritime Employers Association in order to bring both sides together and sort of highlight the members' concerns here. But what this means as of this morning, that all 1,200 port workers are back on the job. They want a 20% pay hike over the next 4 years, and so far the Maritime Employers Association not budging. They're saying, quote, that the mediation process is failing to produce results. QB members have been without a contract since last year, and they were ordered back the last time there was a dispute here back in 2021 by the federal government, and union membership with CUPE say that there's still the same issues with wages and benefits still unresolved and are still currently on the table. Federal mediators are hoping to meet and bring both sides together on this, but so far, according to the Port Authority of Montreal, about 11,000 containers have piled up, not reaching their markets, and economists are predicting about $91 million worth of goods are not making it to where they belong each and every every day, but nothing like what potentially we're seeing south of the border. Those 45,000 dock workers are still off the job. That's affecting 36 ports from the eastern side and the Gulf side as well. A lot of container goods come in from the U.S., and about 40% of all containers that enter the U.S. come from these ports. The White House is also involved here, being with the election in just a few weeks, and the White House urging both sides to come together because this is affecting about $4.5 billion worth of goods on a daily basis, and that could be inflationary not just here, but for all goods coming to Canada as well. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
The skywatchers who look deep into space are having trouble seeing as far as they used to. The problem is that thousands of communication satellites are getting in the way. Nicole Martellero has the story.
The stunning Milky Way at night, lost to most of humanity due to ground light pollution from streetlights, homes, and cars. But now astronomers are worried about another source of pollution, and it's coming from above. Satellites, mainly driven by SpaceX, which launches its Starlinks roughly twice a week.
If you're launching like 10 satellites, fine, great, no problem. But if you're doing that every week, you can't just consider those 10 satellites, as an isolated thing, right? It's part of this larger cumulative impact.
These satellites are designed to provide internet access around the world, particularly in remote locations, but they're interfering with astronomical research, both in the optical wavelength and in the radio wavelength, which allows astronomers to see what our eyes can't. SpaceX has more than half of all active satellites in orbit, 6,000, and are planning for a total of 42,000.
If this satellite proliferation continues, then it is a huge problem for science. It's a huge problem for being able to observe the universe, to being able to understand what's out there.
SpaceX acknowledges the issue and is working with astronomers to make the satellites dimmer and quieter. Yet, the problems persist. A new study found that second-generation Starlinks are leaking electromagnetic radiation, which creates noise for radio astronomers.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Further complicating things, SpaceX isn't the only one launching these mega constellations of satellites. China is proposing 40,000 of its own.
I think that we're just on an unsustainable path right now. I think that there's not international coordination is not a priority on anyone's radar right now, and it's more of like a kind of a Wild West space race situation.
Runaway progress at the cost of what we see in the night sky and what we don't. Nicole Martellero, CBC News, Toronto.
Governor General Mary Simon invested 4 companions, 21 officers, and 29 members into the Order of Canada at Rideau Hall today. Canadian actress Sandra Oh was among those who was made an officer of the order. In addition to her acting work, she was honored for her advocacy for the arts. Former CBC reporter Brian Stewart was also named. He was one of the first journalists to cover the 1984 Ethiopia famine. Another CBC journalist, the Fifth Estate's Bob McEwen, was named a member too.
Canada's main stock index dipped lower today as losses outweighed strength in energy stocks, while U.S. markets also dropped. Here's a look at how the markets did do as we head to break. All right, we have to wrap things up. And yeah, watching those overnight temperatures dip down to the single digits, 'tis the season, huh?
But enjoy tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a few cool spots last night as well. There was a crispness in the air for some. I think where we saw that fog forming, that actually does warm things up just a smidge. And tonight, the wind will be increasing into the morning hours, which should help to keep temperatures just a bit warmer tonight as well. But long-range outlook, I mean, we'll be approaching mid-October. We know where this is heading. We know where we're going. As for tonight, we will watch for a fairly clear sky above us. It's just a chance of maybe some cloud forming at ground level. So do watch for some fog patches as we edge into the early morning hours tomorrow. Once that fog does lift, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud. And then moving into the afternoon, you'll start to see the clouds building from the south and working their way to the north and east. So the clouds will be increasing through the afternoon, becoming overcast late afternoon into the evening. And that is ahead of that developing storm system that will bring not necessarily heavy rain, but some showers afternoon on Saturday, maybe some steadier rain Saturday night into Sunday. Rain is not a bad thing. It's just would be nice to carry that Friday weather over, at least into one of the 2 days for the first weekend of October. So starting out your Friday into tomorrow morning, we will see maybe some fog patches, otherwise fairly clear. Once the sun does rise, we'll look at a fairly sunny morning, but the clouds will start to increase. So a mix of sun and cloud by early afternoon. By late afternoon, it's not necessarily overcast, but maybe a bit more cloud than sun, leaning towards the cloudier side of things in that sun and cloud mix. And temperature-wise tomorrow, with that wind increasing from the southwest, it's going to push those temperatures up to anywhere from 18 to as warm as 21 degrees, depending on how close to the water you are for your Friday. So for Friday, October, not too bad. Still warm for the weekend, but maybe a few showers, although that's not always a bad thing. Keeps things nice and green.
Exactly.
Well, we still have that lovely green color.
Let's keep it while we can. Okay, Jay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jay.
You got it.
Well, a Nigerian artist has unveiled a monumental art piece to mark the country's 64th year of independence. Take a look at this. The 6 by 8 meter installation is crafted from over 800,000 construction nails. It took the artist and his team 50 days to complete.
The artwork in the shape of Nigeria features 37 faces, including past leaders and Nigerian sports legends. The artist says the nails symbolize both the country's current pains and its inherent strength. Nigeria has been struggling in recent years with the militant group Boko Haram and an economic crisis.
That is impressive, isn't it? That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.